Pai nosso, que estais no céu, santificado seja o vosso nome. Venha a nós o vosso reino, seja feita a vossa vontade, assim na terra como no céu, assim na terra como no céu. O pão nosso de cada dia dai-nos hoje, ó Senhor. Perdoai as nossas dívidas, assim como perdoamos aos nossos devedores. Não deixeis cair em tentação, mas livrai-nos de todo o mal. Não deixeis cair em tentação, mas livrai-nos de todo o mal.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here with us today, following the series of talks organized by the United States Spiritist Federation every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Today, we're going to have our special guest, Marcelo Netto, that will be talking about when a little bit goes a long way. But before we turn it over to Marcelo, let's do our opening prayer. We thank our spiritual friends for this opportunity this morning, a very special day that we celebrate the birthday of Dr. Bezerra de Menezes, very special day today. And we ask the spirituality to involve, enlighten our friend Marcelo, inspiring him and inspiring all of us to open our hearts and our minds to understand the lessons and also to take them and practice them in our everyday lives. Thank you, and please be with us this morning. So, Marcelo is already with us there. You can see him. Hi, Marcelo. Nice seeing you.
Hi. How do you doing, Tanya? It's a great pleasure to be here with you, joining this morning, this wonderful morning here. Thank you for the invitation.
In Florida, huh? Nice in Florida today?
Nice in Florida today, yes. It's very hot, very humid, but it's very nice.
Very good. So before I let you bring all these wonderful lessons that you prepared for us, let me introduce you formally for our friends that are all over the world listening to us and seeing us. Marcelo Netto holds a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering. He is the president of the Spiritist Federation of Florida, vice president of Conscious Living Spiritist Group in Miami, and the president of Leal Publisher and Fab Publisher. So Marcelo is very active in the United States Spiritist movement. We've been working together for many years, right, Marcelo? And it's really a pleasure to have you here. And I will let you now bring the lesson to us. Thank you again.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Tanya. It's a great pleasure. And I guess I can start. Yes, the discussions, the comments, the topic today that we are going to bring. It's something that actually enlightens our mind in this very specific date. The date of the birth of one very dear spirit that for the Spiritist movement, it causes a profound impact. Dr. Bezerra de Menezes, which his life impact all of us. And when I place this, when a little bit goes a long way, his life was filled with a little bit things, beautiful things, not only little things, but big things, little and big things. So his acts of charity during the course of his existence has impacted us in a so tremendous way. That's why this date, it's so well celebrated through the whole Spiritist movement all around the world. So his figure, his personality, his character was the true example of a moral man, which was very well pointed out in the Gospel according to Spiritism, the moral man, the characteristics of a moral man. But we are going to talk today about this, as I mentioned before, the small things, because nowadays we feel sometimes struggling to do small acts of kindness, small acts of charity, small acts of compassion. And I wanted to initiate our topic with a story. It was a true story that actually happened here in the state of Florida, September 2017. And I'm changing the slide. And that was a true story that happened over here. So when Hurricane Irma was making its way to our beautiful Sunshine State, all of us, all Floridians, we're getting there to Home Depot, Lowe's, and hardwood store to get like as much as possible things to board our windows to prepare everything for the storm. And it happens actually every day. I mean, like every year. Hopefully, we're not going to have anything this year, but it's something that really causes a lot of anxiety for all of Floridians and everybody that lives close to the coast. But in that specific day, was September, I don't remember, maybe it was September 10 or 9, 2017, in that specific store at Lowe's, very close to Orlando area. It was a scene that strikes all of us, and it was all over the news. So this lady, Pam Breck, drove like 30 miles from his home, where he was taking care of her father. Her father has a very problematic circumstances. He has a heart failure. He has a pacemaker. So he was truly needing the electricity, the power. And she was concerning about, because of the hurricane, how many days they could be without a power. So she drove 30 miles to that specific location at Lowe's to get one generator. She was in line, many people, crowded, as you can see over the news. Anytime a hurricane is striking, it's going towards us. And she was lining in that specific place to get the generator. But because the demand was so tremendous, she was ending up without the generator. And she was sobbing, she was crying because she didn't know exactly what to do. She was like very impactful. The impact of that, the inability to get the generator caused her a tremendous anxiety, and she was starting sobbing, bursting in tears, sobbing, and put her head like among his hands and was sobbing tremendously, a lot of tears. But very close to her, a gentleman, I was looking at that situation, and he felt a tremendous compassion by that scene. That man was Ramon Santiago, and he didn't speak a very good English. His English was not very well It's not very, he doesn't have like a very good English, but he arrived very close to her, and he mentioned simply like that, you can take my generator. He grabbed the box of his generator, and he placed that box on top of her cart. And she was like, wow. And what he mentioned, like, you need more than me. Don't worry. God will provide. Don't worry. That lady, struck by that compassion, by that very kind, the kindness act of that man, was so impactful. And her heart, like, she simply run to him, embrace him, two strangers. He was consoling her, and what was captured by people that were there filming that very impactful moment was simply hearing the voice of Ramon Santiago consoling her. Don't worry, don't worry. God will provide. Don't worry, my dear. And she was like, it's easy to find. If you go on the internet and you Google it, you put Ramon Santiago and Pam Burke, you will see exactly the scene that I'm trying to describe with my limitations. Because actually the scene say much more than words. And you will see that energy, the exchange of energy, that little act that goes a long way in the life of Pam Burke and her father. This was something that it strikes us many times, because they didn't know each other. They didn't know what to do. So she didn't know what to do, but because of that specific man, I truly believed that her life was impacted tremendously. We all can do small acts of kindness, small acts of compassion, small acts of any kind of good deeds. And we don't have a clue where those small, little, unpretentious acts of goodness can impact the life of many around the world. What I mentioned to you guys, it's just one case that happened and was recorded, and it was placed all over the news, because the reporters placed in that specific location, they were outside filming cases, for example, of desperation or lack of material, trying to collect testimonies of people in that specific event that was taking place. But they didn't know, they didn't expect to catch that specific scene that impact each and every one in that specific store. The interesting thing is when Lowe's, and because of that generator was the last one, and Ramon Santiago was a frequent client of that specific location. When Lowe's, I'm not making any kind of advertising of Lowe's, okay? It could be any hardware store. But when Lowe's received a new shipment of generator a couple of days later, they reached out to Ramon Santiago, and they gifted him with a new generator free of charge. So it's beautiful. It's a very beautiful story, because I'm pretty sure we all here connected in this network for the good that is being promoted by the United States Spiritist Federation. We all can be instruments of the love, of the good of the Lord. So this is just one case that was very well documented, but there's numerous, immense amount of cases, anonymous people that can promote this kind of good, where a little thing can go a long way, as the main topic of our conversation is suggesting. But you may say, well, I'm just one person, so what difference can I make in the life of this to change the world? I know we can be a big difference. We can make a big difference. Perhaps you may be wishing, well, there's a bit more kindness going around, or perhaps you are increasingly frustrated with what is making news today. We see senseless violence, we see crime, we see abuse of power over the news, the social media. Sometimes we feel like closing our social media, that denigrating people, creating divisions, creating like not the unity of the globe, but creating like building walls, or instead of like building bridges among countries. We see many things that sometimes it shower our willing to do something good. But because we are conscious people, and I'm assuming we are all conscious people in one level or another, but we are in this progress, in this process of progressing, of evolvement, in this process of trying to reach to our lives something better. And because we have inside of each and every one of us the seeds of good, because we are all creatures of God, and everything that God has created so far and will create for the rest of eternity is destined to be plain. It's destined to be happy. It's destined to be relatively perfect. When I'm saying relatively perfect, because we cannot equal the Creator, but this relativity that we're mentioning, it brings us a sense of joy. We live in moments of, we don't live in moments of constant charity. We don't live in moments of constant charity. When we see the story of the enlightening spirits, good spirits, as for example, Dr. Adolfo Bezerra de Menezes, which is very dear to our hearts, his life was characterized with constant moment of charity. He was simply donating from his heart. We can achieve this goal. I remember when Jesus says, like, you can do what I do and much more. So he was pointing exactly the direction, the destination, the horizon that we all have to see, and to promote this transformation that it has to be very well built inside of our hearts, so we can start with small acts of kindness, small acts of charity. So one day we will change this oscillatory wave. Once we do charity, sometimes we go, no, let's lay down a little bit, to live constantly in this charitable mode. That's why one day we're going to be joining with the Creator. When I say joining, I remember the Beatitudes. Blessed are the pure in hearts, because they shall see God. When I see they shall see God, it doesn't mean like we're going to see a figure, but we're going to be so connected with the Creator, just like Jesus is. And just like Jesus was pointing us the direction, keep doing the good deeds. Start with small things. Overcome the obstacles that still reside inside of each and every one of you, and you will see joy one day. So small acts of good, small acts of kindness, small acts of compassion can go a long, long way. And I remember one passage of the book dictated by the spirit Joanna de Angelis and psychographed, channeled by the medium Divaldo Franco, Jesus in Our Days, when Joanna states that the present moment desperately needs an uncrucified Jesus, a companion, a therapist, offering urgent assistance to keep it from going over the edge. So we need this Jesus, this model and guide, not attached to a cross, as if someone walking side by side with us, of course, through the presence of the benevolent spirits, because they work together in this beautiful chain of love. So we can, every opportunity that we face during the course of our lives, let's think what Jesus would do. And thinking about this and conscious about this transformation, we're going to be more aware to transform our limited life and doing something greater, doing something much more profound that's for sure will impact the lives, not only our lives, but the lives of many, many people. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. This is on the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5. I know a few passages by heart, between verse 3 and 10. This meekness that Jesus was saying and was promoting, was proposing. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. It's not like the meek that it's a coward people. To being a meek, it's to find inside of our hearts the seeds that was inserted, was there, inviting us to be different. Because the world outside is inviting us to be the conquerors, to be the one that the ego speaks loud, to be someone different that makes a difference in terms of the ego. But we have to think about that this world, this inherent earth that Jesus was proposing was not the earth outside, is the earth within. That it's so unknown by us, so unknown by us. When we make this examination, when we examine ourselves and doing this self-knowledge that very well proposed in the question 919, when Allan Kardec asked, what is the most effective means for improving ourselves in this life and for resisting the draw of evil? And the Spirit St. Augustine answered in a beautiful way. A sage of antiquity has told you, know thyself. Knowing ourselves are going to unfold this veil of that the ego places, in making this examination, as Kardec also, if you go forward, the question 919a, if I'm not mistaken, says like Kardec said, okay, we understand, we comprehend the wisdom of knowing ourselves, which it's very interesting. We comprehend the wisdom of this maxim, but there's a difficult precisely in knowing ourselves. Is there like a way? By what means can we do this knowing ourselves? And the Spirit, St. Augustine answered, well, do what I used to do when I was living on earth. At the end of each day, I examine my conscience, reviewing what I have done, and ask myself whether or not I had failed to fulfill some duty, and whether or not anyone might have had reason to complain about me. And the answer goes on, giving us hints and possibilities for us do this careful examination. And once we have the courage to examine ourselves, I'm sure the next day we can act towards this new man, new woman that are arising inside of each and every one of us. When we know ourselves, doing this careful examination, meekness, kindness, compassion, could be something that was maybe that we are lacking, maybe in actions, could be something much more frequent in our lives. The power of kindness, the kindness, for example, and the development of meekness can overcome the darkness we sometimes face. That's why small actions that go a long way. It could be a smiling to a stranger who feels invisible, unseen. What if that smile is the one factor that contributed towards the decision of that one person not to commit suicide? Sometimes this happens. It's a small action. There's so much loneliness in the world, so much pain. And all a person needs sometimes is to believe there's goodness in the world. Perhaps I can simply throw in my cases. Perhaps it is about mentoring a child, lending a hand to someone who needs help, or an ear to someone who is lonely, sharing a positive thought, giving time or money to a cause. We all do this. Or giving someone who hurts us, sometimes forgiving someone who hurts us. Forgive, this magical word. Forgive. Give something more. Extract this from you, because we all have something more to give. It's just a matter of looking for, and you will see marvelous treasures inside of our hearts. Here's a well-kept secret that I'm going to tell you. We all have the ability to bring joy and make a difference in the lives of others. That's kindness. And we need more of it. We need more kindness in the world. It makes me remind, where there is sadness, joy. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. In the words of St. Francis of Assisi, when he shows us to be an instrument of peace, an instrument of hope, an instrument of light in the hands of the good spirits, in the hands of the Lord. That's why bringing these small actions, the small acts of charity, it could impact the lives of so many people in this world of pandemic, in this world of confining, in this world of people like sometimes lose their hope. We see a lack of compassion, and we spiritists, we can contribute a little bit. We start with small actions, with small deeds. Every long road starts with the first steps. Let's be courageous to do this first step. I remember one statement that I remember I was reading, and my wife loves her very much. They get acquainted once, like they talk a little bit, Karen Armstrong. And when Karen Armstrong, who used to be a nun, it brings like a phrase that we know by heart. She states like, dethroning ourselves from the center of the world and placing someone else there. It means like we are not the center of the world. When we put someone, dethroning ourselves from the center of the world, we put our ego aside and we see the other as the reflection of our hearts, as the reflections of our spirit, and we establish the plug, the link that has to be so very well built and established among human beings. Those who make compassion an essential part of their lives find the joy of life. And also kindness. Kindness deepens the spirit and produces rewards that cannot be completely explained in words. Is it an experience? And I am pretty sure you all are going to agree with me. It is an experience more powerful than words can explain. I read once from a psychotherapist. His name is Robert Fury. He is from Missouri. This is the phrase that was impact me a lot in his literature. He says like, kindness, that's what he said. He says like, kindness is more than a philosophy of mind. It is a philosophy of the spirit. And we can bring, like researchers have stated that being kind can make us much more happier. And there's like too many researchers that are suggesting us scientific proofs. This is not my line of work, but I'm sure maybe there are people like here that their lines of work, biochemical, in the medical field, they see that when someone engages in the acts of kindness, no matter if it's big or small, there's like levels of serotonin increases in both the giver and receiver. It's really interesting. I am putting here one of the slides. In the last few years, researchers have looked at the so-called helper's high and its effects on the human body. Scientists are searching to understand just how altruism, the wish to perform good deeds, affects our health, even our longevity. So if you want to live longer, be kind. Just a joke, but be kind. Be loving. Be compassionate. Do something good. And the researchers that suggest this, it says like when the giver, the receiver, and also someone that is watching the scene get their levels of serotonin and dopamine increased tremendously. What does it mean? It means that we are destined to be good. So I remember myself when I was watching a TV or a movie or a story, when we see acts of charity in all levels, it impacts my heart. And we sometimes like, I want to be just like him. I want to be just like her. I want to do what she's doing. I want to do what he's doing. It impacts us. It gives us like a strength. It gives us like, as if it's giving us a boost that we don't know where it's coming from. So the organism, the spirit is triggering some elements, some these neurotransmitters that makes the connections among the neurons, establishing something greater and beautiful, giving us a sensation of we worth it. We are created to be kind. We are created to do good things. For the ones who doesn't know, so dopamine and serotonin, I'm not this is not, as I mentioned before, this is not my field, but they are brain chemicals, and they are messengers of neurotransmitters that helps maybe regulate many bodily functions. So they have roles in sleep and memory, on the metabolism, the emotional well-being. People sometimes refer to dopamine and serotonin as the happy hormones due to the roles they play in regulating mood and emotions. So they are also they're also involved in several mental health conditions, including low mood and depression. So depending on the levels of these two neurotransmitters, we can be affected tremendously. And doing good, it's something that actually triggers these two neurotransmitters, impacting a lot of our lives. But we once and times, our ego plays an interesting role in our lives, because sometimes when we see this, movies, documentaries, examples of someone doing beautiful things, we feel like doing the same. We feel like feeding the hunger. We feel like going to Africa, going to saving Brazil from for example, the virus, the Zika virus. We feel like we have this impulse, which is very noble, which is very, it's fair, it's nice, it's noble, as I mentioned. But we have small acts of kindness that can be established, can be practiced inside of this little cell that we call home. And I am going to bring here in the next slide chapter 31 from the book, The Way, the Truth, and the Life, where Emmanuel, the spirit author Emmanuel, through the psychograph capabilities of Chico Xavier, brings us something that maybe it's worth for us read and to reflect. He says, like, the littlest things. Since you cannot even do littlest things, why are you anxious about the rest? This was in Jesus on the Gospel of Luke 12:26. And he says, like, few people know the importance of doing the littlest things well. There are those who, out of a sense of false superiority, look down on simple tasks as if they were dispensable for the success of more impressive works. A learned person must not forget that once upon a time, he or she had to learn the simple letters of the alphabet. Moreover, no work can be completed rightly if the details are not duly considered and understood. In general terms, people are always fascinated by spectacular situations and dramatic or exciting events. However, being prominent demands much prudence. Thorns and stones can also be prominent on the daily pathway. That is why we need to attend to the littlest things on the road that God has reserved for us, so that what we do may be truly useful for our lives. A symphony would not be played properly if one note were missing, nor would a poem make sense if one verse were omitted. Let us mind the littlest things. They are an integral and inalienable part of a great accomplishment. Comprehending the importance of this fact, the Master asks us in the Gospel of Luke, since you cannot do even the littlest things, why are you anxious about the rest? What Emmanuel was bringing to us in this profound chapter of the book, The Way, the Truth, and the Life, chapter 31, it's sometimes we are impacted by the news, the good things that we see, and we forget the littlest things. They are very close to us, inside of our homes, inside of our community, inviting us to start from the beginning, being more kind, being more generous, being more compassionate in this little cell that we call family. And then once we achieve the basic steps, the fundamental base for the construction of this building that's taking place and is being built during the courses of many lives of our existence, our immortal existence, we can maybe one day be more courageous and to go outside. I am not in no way I am forbidding, I'm promoting for us not to go outside and to do good deeds, to engage in campaigns, to make a difference in the world. Of course, that's not the objective of this chapter or the objective of my reflections. But it's for us to pay attention first where the attention needs to be direct. Because sometimes in movements that the ego plays inside of our hearts, we run away from our homes, where the most impactful effort needs to be addressed by us with compassion, with compassion, with love, is distracted. So we sometimes run away and try to do outside what we should be doing also inside of our homes. That's why in the Spirit's book, in question 775, it says, when Allan Kardec asked the spirits, what would be the result for society if family ties were relaxed? A magnification of selfishness. Let's pay attention to this. Let's pay attention to this magnification of selfishness, because I see when we do fraternal assistance, when we come to talk to some friends that comes to our center. Now we are closed because all the activities are being conducted online. But I remember many cases, people get in contact with the Spiritist teachings. They say, like, I want to save the world. I say, well, very good. I want to save the world too. And then when we start like talking about their relationships, their family, their husbands, their wives, their kids, they say, I don't want to talk about them. They're very complicated. I want to save the world. Leave the family outside of this picture. So see how little things, the littlest things can be initiated, can be placed, can be examined in this first school that the Creator offered us, the family. What would be the result for society if family ties were relaxed? A magnification of selfishness. And then I will put here the classic question that Kardec asked the spirits. What is the true meaning of the word charity as Jesus understood it? Benevolence toward everyone, indulgence towards the imperfections of others, and forgiveness for offenses. Bringing us a new perspective of charity. It's not only giving alms to someone that needs. This is also a beautiful charity. This is also, of course, an act of love towards the other. But there's one much more profound and difficult to put in place, which is creating and being benevolent. Benevolent means, bene means, it comes from a Latin word. Bene means good. The good that goes towards someone. Indulgence means inside. Indulgence means dulcere. Indulcere, it's from a Latin word. So the sweetness that we have inside towards the imperfection of others, because we also have imperfections and we need forgiveness. That's why we forgive. When we establish these 3 points that converge to a point that called charity, we are putting in place this word charity as understood by Jesus. I can imagine, and this is just an imagination, when the last meal, Jesus among the apostles, and everybody was trying to see who Jesus loves more. And at the end, Jesus maybe was, this is just an imagination, of course. Can you imagine, like Jesus says, like, take care of each other. Be benevolent towards each other. Be indulgent towards the imperfections of others. Forgive one another, because you are going to build this bond if these small steps, and actually are not small steps, because the level of imperfection that we still carry inside of our hearts, it could be a great obstacles, but it's possible to be overcome. And one day, with love in our hearts, starting with baby steps, we will see possibilities that we never saw before, because every long road to be walked started with the first step. That's why love and charity supplement the law of justice because loving our neighbor is to do them all the good possible, all that we would wish to be done to ourselves. This is over there in the Gospel according to Spiritism. Actually, it's on the Spirit's book, the description. Such is the meaning of Jesus' words. Love one another as brothers and sisters. We have much to accomplish. I know we have much to accomplish. And I would like to finish our talk bringing something that it's very well, it summarizes maybe everything that we are saying here. When the first letter to the Corinthians, and this is a phrase, this is something that it's very well pronounced in wedding vows and many ceremonies, when we say like the charity according to Paul. And of course we have some translations that talks about love according to Paul. But the love that he is mentioning is this agape, is this love in action, is this love that we understood as charity, benevolence, indulgence, forgiveness of the offenses. And Paul brings us something that we have to reflect. And once we reflect about this letter, we can find places during the, not only places, but occasions during the course of our existence, this existence that we are in. Maybe we can be more charitable, we can be more compassionate, we could be more meek, and we are going to read it together and to invite us to do something that maybe Dr. Bezerra de Menezes was doing frequently during the course of his life, and teaching us, because he learned from Jesus, that even if I were to speak all the languages of men and the language of the angels themselves, if I did not have charity, I would be only like a sounding gong or clanging cymbal. And if I were to have the gift of prophecy and grasp it all mysteries, and if I had a perfect knowledge of all things, if I had all the faith possible to the point of moving mountains, if I did not have charity, I would be nothing. And if I were to distribute my belongings to feed the poor and deliver my body to be burned, if I did not have charity, none of this would be of any use of me. Charity is patient. It is kind and benevolent. Charity is not envious. It is not rash or hurried. It is not full of pride. It is not scornful. It does not look after its own interest. It does not take offense or become upset by anything. It does not suspect evil. It does not rejoice in injustice, but rejoices in truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes for all things, endures all things. Now, these three virtues remain: faith, hope, and charity. But among them, the most excellent is charity. Let's be the one that promotes this charity that was taught by Jesus, was understood by Jesus. Maybe we cannot do the huge acts of charity. Well, let's be courageous to do the small ones. We never know. We never know whose eyes God is watching you through. This is something that I kept from, I extract from a movie. Actually was a true story that I inviting you maybe to see. So the name of the movie, Same Kind of Different as Me, is based on a very inspiring true story of a international art dealer. His name was Ron Hall, who befriends a homeless man in hopes of saving his struggling marriage to his wife, Debbie, a woman whose dreams will lead all of them to a most remarkable journey. It's a movie with watching. It's very inspiring, and it makes us think that we can do much more. Let's be courageous. Let's copy the example of so many good spirits that crosses our mind, that crosses our hearts, that show that they are examples of faith, they're example of compassion, they're example of charity, and most specifically in the day of today is this beautiful man that maybe for the English speaking public it's not well known, but for the Brazilians, for the Latin world, especially the Spiritist movement, this man that was an example of small and big actions of good deeds and charity, Dr. Bezerra de Menezes, could impact our lives and maybe invite us on the daily basis to be something else, someone to express the love of the cross of Jesus. Thank you so much, and let's be an instrument of Jesus, of the Lord's peace.
What an inspiration for us at this moment that we do need so much. We have now Jussara joining us. Jussara, we are going to be together in this moment. And everybody, please feel free to send questions or comments so that we can continue a little longer with Marcelo here in this conversation. We're going to start our questions and answers. And it's so, let's hope that we take this examples as really an inspiration, not be intimidated, right, Marcelo? We have to look at people that are doing good things or big things and inspire us to start little by little, and that's perfectly fine, whatever we can to make this world better, right? That's a great message. Okay, so I will start here with the first one to you, Marcelo.
Okay.
Do you feel the amount of bad news prevents us from seeing the progress of the planet? Are we really progressing?
I think we are really progressing. I think we do. We are really progressing. Of course, the amount, the tremendous amount of bad news impacts us, and maybe it's a plan of the lower levels of spirits, because I don't see good deeds, because we have a lot of good deeds taking place anonymously. Sometimes the good deeds are very shy. They don't show off. But the bad shows off in the news, and the people behind the cameras, I don't know why they have this negative inspiration to show only the bad things. We have a lot of good things taking place anonymously. And the law of progress, it's something that we have to pay attention. The Spirit's book brings us the law of progress. It's inevitable. It's inevitable. And we also can see and pay attention to question 737 and 738. That shows sometimes the destructive situations that we are facing are a push to the humanity to achieve levels of compassion, levels of advancement, intellectual and moral. What would take like maybe centuries, as the answer of the spirits are stating, now could take like a few years. That's my invitation. Read the question 737 of the Spirit's book and the question 738 of the Spirit's book. And don't be discouraged by this immense amount of news promoting the bad, the discord, the disunion. There's a big plan for us. If Jesus is our master, no doubt about it, we are destined to be clean. We are destined to be happy. Let's start. Let's be courageous. Let's be the one that shows that we despite the problems that we see outside, we can build something within and then reflect to the world. Be the change that you want to see in the world, as Gandhi once said.
Thank you.
Hi, Marcelo. It's so great to have you here. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation. And we have more questions, of course. Sometimes we get lost in wanting to become perfect overnight, and we think we need to get into the condition of missionaries and do big things. Is it our pride playing a role in it?
Sometimes, yes, sometimes. I caught myself once. I remember when I got acquainted with the Spiritist teachings, I said, like, oh my God, this is so transformation inside of me. This is like the roadmap to heaven. And I was like, I can do huge things. And then more the light sets in, more the light illuminates this messy room that it's our spirit, more we see that we have to achieve. Don't get discouraged. Yes, it is sometimes there's our pride taking place, showing off, but don't get discouraged. It happens to me, it could happen to you, it can happen to anyone. Small steps, but constantly steps towards the perfection. We're gonna fall a few times. Of course we will. But any time that you fall, stand up, pray, get encouraged, ask for assistance, and I'm sure with your persistence, you will find that more falls it's taking place in your life, and you're feeling much more encouraged to overcome the obstacles that sometimes pretty much is the ego. It is indeed sometimes.
Thank you. One more. Oh, just a bunch of questions. It's good to interact. Even if we touch only one life throughout our lifetime, can this be good enough? Should we consider a continuous necessary exercise?
If this is all in your capacity to touch one life, it's good. But there's one question in the Spirit's book that says, like, when Kardec asked, like, if I don't remember by heart, but it's something like that. The invitation that the Spirit says, like, do all the good as possible of your capacity. Sometimes we're very limited to do just one deed, a good deed. But we will notice, you can notice, we all can notice that during the course of our lives, we have the possibility to do small, beautiful things, good deeds during the course of our lives. Okay, if this is the only thing that you want to achieve, that's fine. But my invitation is, don't be limited. Pay attention to your life, and you will see it's not one specific situation that are going to be the transformation of your existence. It's not going to be suffice that situation. Work on your charity. With the three aspects, if you work with charity, benevolence towards everyone, indulgence towards imperfections of others, and forgiveness of the offenses, and if you put this in practice during the course of your life, at work, with your family, with your boss, with your loved ones, do this, and you will see you're not impacting only one life, you're impacting many, many lives. There's a multitude of spirits that paying attention to us, as Paul of Tarsus once mentioned. We are being watched by so many spirits that sometimes don't like us because they know who were we in the past. They know, but they want to see if Marcelo, okay, now I see Marcelo's a little different. I'm going to be still like knocking on his door, trying to provoke him, but because of the persistence, put in practice this charity, not only towards one person, but towards my life, in small acts of kindness, compassion, will maybe impact the life of the invisible world that wants to promote some kind of harmness to us and transforming their lives too. We never know. You never know whose eyes God is watching you through. That's what I would like to say. It's the last slide. I'm sorry if I was not very. Maybe you guys can help me. The limitations that I have, maybe to explain a few things. It reflects of course, my limitation. But I'm glad to be here, at least to try to contribute a little bit with a few answers.
A great message, Marcelo. It's very important that we are reminded of the opportunities that we have all the time, right? We don't need to be limited to the Spiritist Center or the church, or sometimes we confuse, right? That we have to be good just in places that we're supposed to be good. No, we're supposed to be good and do good things all the time. So all the opportunities, like you mentioned a beautiful story at the beginning, but so many stories that in our lives, and sometimes it's not that we need to consciously be saying, oh, I need to do this. It's just to be aware of our surroundings and don't miss the opportunity, like you said beautifully. Thanks, Marcelo.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Okay, this question from Glaucia is very good. It's something that I guess many people that have children will face or is facing. How can I keep my teenagers close to spirituality and positivity besides the study of the gospel and good books when the outside world, schoolmates and social media promotes just the opposite?
This is the biggest challenge, I think, of our times. This is one of the biggest challenge. I'm not going to provide you a precise answer because we have many circumstances related to this answer. But I would give you maybe a suggestion that it's going to be maybe the first step for your endure towards your kids. Be the example. An example sets a milestone. When you put an example, I know it's hard because sometimes they take us like out of the loom. They put it. It's complicated, but try to be the example. An example, a sincere example, convince much more than books and talks. And once we are the example, sometimes, many times, they are getting closest to us. And maybe they want to see, because they're very smart, they're very intelligent, especially this new generation over here that it's thinking, oh my God, they're super smart. And we are being bombarded by so many bad things. I know we see the good and the bad in the ultimate expression. And nowadays, in social medias, you get a phone, you tap the phone, and you can get the good and the bad and the worst. It's complicated, but try to be the example. So as I mentioned in the beginning, I don't have a precise answer. This is not my field, and I can understand the challenge that you're going through. We've been talking to many federations, trying to see what is the best way to deal with kids, deal with adolescents, especially in these moments of transition that we are facing in. And all of them has exactly the same answer. They have possibilities, they have materials, they have everything, but being the example is the most profound and impactful in the life of the adolescents and the kids. And I know I lack on my answer. I know this, and I ask for forgiveness, not being like so precise in the way of answering this question, because it's indeed a big challenge. It is.
We do what we can best, right, Marcelo? I think I like so much when we have that part on the Gospel according to Spiritism. the comment from Kardec in chapter 17, item 4, that the true spiritist is the one that makes an effort to overcome their negative tendencies. So I think in this case, our role here and what we were invited to do is to contribute for this progress. And in the same way that we are not going to get it at the end of the road, I mean, our road as complete as we would like to be, our children will be in the same position and along the road, very much like ourselves. If we, like Marcelo said, if we are able to set good examples, they will impact them in the long run, and we can be sure that the seeds that we are planting now will someday flourish. But that is wonderful, Marcelo. I understand the frustration, and we see that not only with our children, we see with our loved ones, our family members. How many of them we would like to be like ourselves, to have at least a bit more of spirituality, to question themselves. But it is what it is right now, and we can only do the best. Tanya, it's with you now.
Yeah, that was a tough one, a good and tough one, right? Let's see the next one now, Marcelo. How do the high spirits influence us to make the right decisions when we have the opportunity to do good deeds?
How they influence us?
Yeah.
There's the question 459 of the Spirits book says like the spirits make an influence in our lives much more profound in the way that we understand. So we are influenced. They inspire us if we have the willing to do good, and they constantly inspire us to do good. Let's imagine someone, a very dear friend, that know our past, that knows how we are, but they see that we have potential, a lot of potential, and sometimes the situations is being presented right in front of us. They inspire us. Go there, Marcelo. Do this. We can accept or we can deny it. So it's going to be up to us if we're going to embrace this opportunity and be someone's be the ones that changing, give something else to someone. It could be a smile. It could be, as I mentioned before, like helping someone in a very small action. Let's try to be aware of this inspiration that constantly are being proposed to us. But we have the two sides. We have the good ones and we have the bad ones. Bad is not the word. We have the less evolved ones, yes? So which one we want to take? My other invitation, I love the Spirits book, so go read the question 459 of the Spirits book. So we are constantly being influenced by the spirits. I want to be influenced by the good ones or the bad ones. Let me put this in this way. So be aware. Be aware.
Yeah, good or bad influence, right? Depends on us, right?
Depend on us.
Who are we connected to, right? Let's pay attention.
It's going to be free will, exactly. It's going to be free will. Let's tell me how you think, how you behave, and I'm going to tell you what kind of company do you have, physically and spiritually. Yes.
Okay. So, Marcelo, we have a few more minutes, and before we close, we would love to hear you talking a little bit about the Spiritist, the Federation of Florida, and this is something that we normally do when our guests they are. Working on a role of guiding Spiritist movement in a certain area, and we have you with the Federation in Florida. So we would like to hear, for those who have never heard anything about, that much about the Spiritist movement in the U.S. And we have so many federations. We have the National Federation. We have 5 state federations, and Marcelo is responsible for one of them. So please tell us a little bit about this work, about the Spiritist movement in Florida, and if you could give us a little idea as well as how the movement developed there, and after that, if you could give our last words as well, to say goodbye to our audience and to say the final prayer for us. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you,
Marcelo.
Thank you very much, Tanya. Well, the Spiritist Federation of Florida is it's a movement that was started in 1987. The birth of this federation was April 18, 1987. And it was really interesting because the founder of the federation was a Colombian guy by the name Benjamin Rodriguez. He was from a Catholic background. He came from Colombia many decades ago. He passed away already. He already discarnated. But he was so touched by the Spiritist teachings, and he got to know Divaldo Franco and many others, and he inviting many Cuban Americans and Colombian Americans, and maybe many Latinos. The Brazilians didn't take place in that moment in a very large impact. So this is really interesting because he found the first Spiritist home, he founded the first Spiritist center that belongs to the Bezerra de Menezes Spiritist Association. So it was April 18, 1985. 2 years later, Benjamin Rodriguez founded the Federation, the Spiritist Federation of Florida. And the influence of the Cuban Americans were very profound. There's two people that came from Cuba when the revolution took place. They moved to U.S. and they got in touch with the Spiritist teachings. Guerrero Valle, and the other one was Armando Payas. They were Cuban Americans, inviting other friends, getting in contact, as I mentioned, with Divaldo Franco. They founded the Spiritist Federation of Florida, and the movement took place, and it started like growing rapidly. The first years were a little struggle, a little complications, little challenge, a lot of challenge, and then the Brazilians started to join the movement. Now we have approximately, if I'm not mistaken, 25 Spiritist centers in the state of Florida. Not all of them are affiliated members. Many of the Spiritist centers are like groups, study groups, but they still carry their names. We have 16 Spiritist centers affiliated to the Spiritist Federation of Florida. Most of them are composed by Brazilians that form their groups. Some groups have more than 25 years old. And it's a beautiful movement. We have our challenges, we have our difficulties, that's for sure. You can see, and Josara, head of the International Spiritist Council, knows exactly what I'm talking about. To bring Allan Kardec with the original message, so we cannot be dissipated. We cannot be like, as Bezerra says, like, let's bring Allan Kardec, study Allan Kardec in a more profound way, so we cannot be divided with different philosophies. So this is pretty much what is the movement that we have in the state of Florida. I know it's a very limited way that we don't have like much time to explain all the details about the movement. Perhaps one day we can prepare something else But Jusara knows, I guess, much how the movement started, and that's pretty much it. I hope, I hope that the good spirit can keep us inspiring us, to keep us united towards this beautiful message that Christ brought us like 2,000 years ago. And Allan Kardec unfolded more than 160 years ago, bringing us this Christ in a different way, this loving soul that is ahead of our planet, conducts our lives, and the law of progress is a destination. And to be honest with our feelings, to be loving, to be someone that makes an impact in the lives of others could be the lead of our existence. And I invite you all to join us in this, as Jusara asked me to conduct the final prayer, so we can be joining in this network of light, this network of wisdom, this network that promotes the good, to ask Jesus, to ask the good spirits, especially Dr. Bezerra de Menezes, to enlighten our minds and to inspire us. We are struggling throughout so many centuries, trying to find outside what we already have inside, the seeds of love that was implanted in each and every one of us, because we have this divine gene. We have the capability of do good. We have the possibilities to expand love that is already available to each and every one of us. Through the study of Spiritism, based in Allan Kardec's codification, we can find joy for our lives, and we're not going to get distracted with too many philosophies that sometimes it's the plan of the lower order spirits that are still like us in the past, and sometimes like us in this present time, are trying to find something to put us apart. There's a great and beautiful plan that divine providence is playing, is promoting, is proposing to each and every one of us, that it's the unification of this movement, the unification of the planet, unification of the human race, because after all, we are all belong to one only race, the human race. They're destined to be loving and compassion. Blessed are the meek, for they will one day inherit the earth. Thank you so much. Bless the United States Spiritist Federation. Bless the dear friends that join us in this moment of reflection and asking constantly the enlightening of the good spirits, inspiring each and every one of us to be true examples of Christ's followers. Thank you so much, and so be it.
Thank you, Marcelo, once again. Thank you, everyone who has been watching. Every week we have special guests bring us these wonderful messages that make us think, make us go through these times, special times we're going through in a stronger way, right? More faithful way. So don't forget, next week we're going to have another talk, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. That will be September 5th, and that will be with Marcia Trajano from Georgia, speaking about meaningful conversations with your emotional self. So save the date, the time, and connect with us. Thanks again. Thanks, Jussara. Thanks, Marcelo. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.